Good morning, everyone. What a delight it is to be here. You know, I'm very choosy about where I come to play because I want to play with the people who are really keen, who play big and want to change the world for the better. So welcome to Playful Leadership. We've got a lot planned ahead of you, and I really want to take this opportunity to clarify and be a little bit more specific, perhaps, and play with the definition of what I mean by play, and in particular, true play. So true play is safe play, fair play, and being a good sport. The kind of play I'm talking about is play as it was intended to be as we were children, when we were still having fun with it, and where if we chose to compete, it would be to find out how far we could fulfill our own potential and enable others to do it. So there are 4 play golden rules. Treat everything as data, stay with not knowing, trust in the process, and I invite us to co-create a safe space. And as I walk around this amazing cinema, it's got so much great energy apart from having the next Mission Impossible film posters. We've got some glorious posters as well created by this wonderful group that Pavel has put together. And I think this is really the great place to be in terms of getting alignment of what we care about most. So I'm Portia Tung, I'm the play alchemist, I'm an organisational leadership coach, and the way I typically work is, of course, along the value stream with the teams for delivering value, but I also do what I call the vertical slice. So I work vertically throughout the whole organisation, from teams who are delivering to middle management, as well as product managers, and then the CEO and their SLT. And that's how I've found the most effective way of enabling change. So hopefully we'll get some tips today if that's something you would like to do too. So I've got a user story here because, you know, this is where the origin of playful leadership comes from. So I've taken the liberty of writing that for you a little bit. So we'll start here. As a play seeker or play skeptic, you choose. I need ideas on becoming a playful leader so that I can enable transformational change and have fun doing it. Because if things aren't transformative and things aren't changing for the better, why would we waste our time doing that? And success criteria. By the time we've finished playing together today, hopefully you can explain the importance of play, have one or more ideas to become more playful, and that we've had fun together. Are we ready to play? Yay! All right, so if you can all stand up. I heard that. Oh no. So remove the safety of your rucksack and your badge. You know, you can keep your badge on, but you know, your notebooks, everything, you're all good. Your whole self is plenty good enough. Okay, so before we play, right, true play, safe play, fair play, being good sport, we really need to warm up, right? So if you take your feet hip width apart, and it's lovely to see a few of you in the audience who've played before in this way. So just notice if we have played together before, how it is you're arriving today and how it might be different. A different version of you today than the last time we played. So let's see. Let's stick our arms out. That's it. And we'll just do some gentle wrist rolls. We hopefully haven't done too much mouse clicking or, you know, using our hands on the laptop today. And then the other way, lovely. Some of you have done that. You know, there's scientists who observe that the reason that humans love symmetry is because there's so much chaos and uncertainty in the world. And so it's really important we treat our bodies, and just kind of as long as it's one way, and then we treat our bodies to that beautiful symmetry, and we do forward too. That's the best way to do time travel. Okay, and then let's see, we'll do some gentle neck rolls. So imagine you've got a crayon, and that's the tip of your nose. So you just do a few gentle rolls. It shouldn't hurt. You might get a bit of clicking, but that's just, you know, your body waking up, hopefully. Okay, and then the final one, of course, because it's almost Friday night and it's dinner with a stranger tonight. So you put your hands on your hips and we do some kind of, there we go. I think some of you I think you started early this week. Excellent, one way. So just relax into your body. And then the other way. And you know what I've learned about leadership? A good leader knows when to lead as well as when to follow. So I invite you to take as much today from this talk as you wish and leave behind what's not useful. So hands up in the air. And follow me as loud and proud as you can. Are you ready? Yes. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, and eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Now, just in case some of you think, oh, I got away with that, thank goodness, we're going to do it as fast as you can now and as loud so that we can scare the children next door, okay? When you're ready, 1, 2, 3, go. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, head, shoulders, knees and toes, and eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Well done, bravo. And you know what? Grab a seat. Thank you so much for playing. And that's probably going to be the hardest thing you're going to do today, and that's really out of the way. And just notice, yeah, exactly. Just notice how you're feeling now in your body. Let's get some shout outs. How is it in your body? Notice what it is like now compared to before. Activated. Thank you. What else? Relaxed. Energized. Anything else? Entertained. And you entertained yourself, which is even better, isn't it? Instead of having to rely on Netflix alone. Okay, and this is the wonderful thing, right? Whilst, as evolution and humanity continues on its trajectory with AI and all those beautiful things, it's so important to remember that whilst there's artificial intelligence, we've got intelligence of our own, we've got sentience, and we can feel with our entire being if we're well connected as a person. And we don't need special, questionnaires or quizzes or analysis tools to know that perhaps this morning we're not so well connected, that we got confused between what's this and what's this. Or maybe we're not sure where this is and where this is. And how quickly we found that out just from this gentle movement. So something to really just enjoy and laugh about. So what is playful leadership? Playful leadership is leadership that facilitates the flow of value through vision, skills, control, and a leader's ability to play. So today's talk is a kind of whirlwind tour of how I'd say just divined this concept. It didn't come from me. It came from my experience and the field of information that I was working in and traveling in. And underlying this playful leadership approach to the way we are as people and professionals in organizations is something I've come to realize. It's called play alchemy. So that's the magic and the mystery that fuels this kind of leadership. And it's made up of play science, psychology, neuroscience, and something called systemic constellations. And that's something we will explore as part of my workshop today and when we play with our emotions. And the key thing with all of this, and the reason I'm so excited about it, is that it enables transformational change that is fun, flexible, and enjoyable. I'm like, who wouldn't want that? Why should transformations be full of pain and suffering? I certainly wouldn't want to be part of that kind of thing. So I invite you to start where you are, and I'm going to do the unusual thing of inviting you to take out your phone. Okay, so just for you, today is the official launch of what I call the Play Genius quiz. So go ahead and use the QR code, or you can type it in. It's quiz.theschoolofplay.org, and it'll just take you a few moments to complete the quiz. And as you read through the statements, there's no need to be overcritical. Just go ahead and answer them as you are right now in this moment. Okay, give you a few minutes. There's no need to overthink it. You decide what the words mean to you. And once you've got your scores, if you can just raise your hand so I can pace where we are. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lovely. Yeah. And you can always do a screenshot of it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, just another 20, 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Okay. All right. Good to go. Okay. So hopefully, actually, I encourage you to take a screenshot of it, or you can get it sent to you with a little bit more blurb, because it's a great conversation starter for the rest of the next few days that we're going to spend together. Right? But before we continue, we're going to just deep dive a little bit more into the content of the quiz. I'd like to just take a moment to thank my beautiful developers, Sam and Sue Hay, who helped create this, because it's taken me a long time to find, let's say, the people who were meant to design this with me. And I just wait. I am very patient. I've learned to wait for the opportunity to meet the right people who really understand about true play to be involved in my work. So, score on the doors. So let's have fun with this. So if you scored 80 to 100, could you stand up? If you scored 80 to 100, stand up. All right. So have a good look around. Everyone, have a good look around at these people. So during the break, you can go tap them up and say, oh, how are you? How is that possible? How is that 80 or 100 for you today? Okay, well done. Round of applause. So wowzers, you play a lot. Keep it up. Okay, grab a seat, grab a seat. And if you scored 60 to 79, go ahead and stand up. It's your turn. Who have we got? Wonderful. Okay, round of applause. Have a good look around again. Yeah, it's just good to know who we're hanging out with, isn't it? Okay. Then we have the 40 to the 59s. Yay, you're on your way to more play. Have you got anyone who's willing to stand or who got that score? Okay, and I just want to share the rest of the scores too. And under 40, celebration. You've made a start and there's lots more room for play. And you know, I work with a whole range of industries, including the National Health Service in England. And recently I worked with a lovely practice in London, and most of their staff scored in the first quadrant, the top quadrant of 80 to 100%. Isn't that the kind of person you want caring for your health and helping you feel better too? So that's a wonderful thing to say. And you might also be surprised. Let's just see a show of hands. How many of you are actually surprised by the score you got? Anyone? Yeah. So the other thing, okay, so some of you might just be really well connected with who you are and how you are, but a lot of people are often surprised by how playful this measures them. And at this point, you might be thinking, but Portia, the quiz has nothing to do with play. So I'm going to sort of pull back the curtain and show you how I came up with it. But before that, let's clarify, what is play? Now, there are lots of assessments that I like to do because I'm a bit of a play geek, a play researcher. So we're going to do another small assessment just to make sure we're in the right place. I hope that Pavel informed you of this assessment and that you did revise very, very hard for it because it is exam season. Did everyone do that? Someone said yes, I like that. Okay, well played. Okay, good one. Okay, so we're going to play a game called Play or Nay. You're going to be shown a sequence of images. If, when you see the image, you think it's play, then you shout, play. And if you don't think it's play, you go, nay. Are we ready to play? Yeah. Yay, okay. Play or nay? Play. Play or nay? Play. Play or nay? Play. Play or nay? Play. Play or nay? Okay, play or nay? Okay, right. Whew, let's see what the computer says. Okay, we can play on. That's a relief. This is a playful enough crowd for this talk to be meaningful. So one of the things you would have noticed with the play assessment just now is that there is no stereotype to play. You can't just look at somebody, right, and judge them by the way they're dressing, the color of their hair, where they come from. You just cannot tell through these extrinsic elements of whether or not they're playful. Because if you were to do that, that would be judgment that is critical, that comes from an egoic place, just not very friendly and useful. So I was like, well, how would we measure how playful someone is. So of course, logically, that led me to think, well, it's about outcomes. It's about who they are and how they behave ultimately. That is the measure of how playful they are. So I came across a model by the Strong Museum in New York. It's a childhood play museum. And they talk about 4 particular areas. So physical development, coordination, physical confidence, agility. Cognitive development, so scientific and mathematical thinking, and independent thinking, massive thing in playful leadership, and literacy skills. So when I work with my clients and my colleagues, and actually with my family, and especially my daughter, the one thing I know when I've done a good job as a mother and as leader for her is that I have enabled independent thinking. Because who knows, I'm not right all the time. God forbid, that'd be really boring. And if we are able to think for each of ourselves, you know, when we are able, the world would be so much closer to world peace, don't you think? And then there is social development, cooperation, negotiation, collaboration, conflict resolution. These are big words that people go to do MBA courses for, right? And yet, when we play, especially as children, these are the things we learn. Then there's emotional development. Look at that. Joy, resilience, empathy, persistence, self-regulation, self-confidence. So when we stop our children, it's so funny that it's so lovely to have the children come on a little school trip to the cinema at the same time as we are here. So I asked one of the teachers to take a picture of Beata and some of my new friends here. And then afterwards I said to the teacher, thank you for the photo. And I said, there's no need to ask the children to be quiet. I said, we have adults here who are here to have fun. And I said, it would be great if the children could too, you know, they should just be themselves. We welcome all of it, you know, and that's the way we should be, you know, an opportunity. So the Play Genius then, the first 4 categories made up of 3 statements each are the physical, cognitive, social, and emotional development. So in many ways, that was the easier piece, because as I studied adult development, I realized most of it was actually just child development, right? But that we're just slightly bigger, older, maybe grumpier on some days, but there we are. So I started asking a lot of questions and observing the catalysts and leaders and different individuals, even if they didn't have leader in their title, right? Because for me, everyone's a leader. We are all CEOs, CFOs, COOs, all sorts, janitors of our own lives, like it or not, right? And when I started observing these individuals working in a professional setting, I identified 5 key attributes of playful leaders. So we are resourceful, responsible, respectful, resilient, and real. Real as in authentic, like the story of the Velveteen Rabbit, a stuffed toy rabbit who longs to become real. And he can only become real when his little boy recognizes that he is this special toy that he can keep for the rest of his life. So that's what makes up the last 5 statements of the Play Genius quiz, also called the 5 R's. And then that really, I thought, well, is this it? Is this it? And I could tell there was kind of not quite this. And there's been many more, you know, cleverer, wiser play enthusiasts and researchers before me. And play is this elusive thing that is so difficult to grasp. And Dr. Stuart Brown, who gave a TED talk and written a book on play that inspired much of this work, you know, even he found it difficult to get funding for play research. Because why would people pay for play research? We should instead pay for efficiency and all sorts of process optimization, but why would we pay for play? So I knew that I needed to dig a little bit deeper. And so at the heart of playful leadership and play alchemy and transformation is what I call systemic development. It's all about presence, ease, and flow, and really feeling that in ourselves and in the systems that we work in service of. And these are the 3 statements, right? I acknowledge things as they are. I trust myself. I belong. Not necessarily easy things to score highly on, right? Because it really requires us to dig deep. But again, I think Pavel's kind of created and attracted a community who's really, really willing to do this self-work. Because that's the kind of homework you can't just outsource, because ultimately you're still going to get exams. And there won't be any AI doing that for you. It'll just be you with your eye. So what is play? Well, play is seemingly purposeless, it's voluntary, it's inherently attractive, and time flies by when we're having fun, and most importantly, it reduces our sense of self-consciousness. None of this is make-believe now, right? Thanks to all different sciences, including neuroscience, we can now track that actually with the brain activity, when we're focused on play, we reduce that hyper-criticality, right? So the inner critic gets to have a little nap, and we get to be free to be ourselves, right? And how much easier it is when we're able to do that working in teams and groups. And of course, there's a potential for improvisation and the desire to keep going. So one warning about play is sustainable pace, another key agile principle, right? Because if you can't stop playing, then I would challenge, is that really true play? Because true play is safe play, fair play, and being a good sport. So one of the ways to do another play test is something Dr. Stuart Brown is I often ask myself as I travel through the day, am I having fun? Is what I am doing flexible? And is it freely chosen, right? And if that isn't the case, let's just say you don't do test-driven development, your teams don't do that, and you've, left the testing till the end, which happens, and it's not very exciting, and it's a bit of a drag. Well, what do? Well, I used to get the whole team together, and we'd do all sorts of tests. Sometimes we even recruit people from other departments to come and help test this thing so we can push it out the door without it coming back with defects, right? So the freely chosen bit, you have a choice about how you get your work done or how you like to play in your life, and that's another key element of true play. So true play also it's a game of catch and consent. It's really important to ask for permission, because if you force people to play, what is that? That is punishment, not play. And that's why, enforced play at Christmas time with family that you haven't seen for ages, and you think, oh gosh, people had too much eggnog, this card game is not going to end well. Well, that's possibly not play. It's also an act of co-creation and allowing yourselves to be changed by the one you're with in a safe way, with your boundaries all in place, but really being able to sort of stretch and see how far you can go with your comfort zone and your potential. So as a play researcher, the most common questions I get asked are, why should I play? And really they mean, is it okay for me to play? Because look at me, I'm a grown-up now. I might even be middle-aged. Is this okay? Is it for the children? And you know what? When I do this work in organizations and with teams, sometimes the adults come up to me and they say, Portia, I remember that when I turned 12 years old, my mum and dad came to my bedroom with this big bin liner, a big sack. It's a black sack in England, by the way, black sack. And they said, happy birthday, darling. You're now 12 years old. You don't need to play anymore. You can focus 100% on building a career and earning money. And then they proceeded to put all her toys into the bag and taking them up to the loft. And she said, that's the last time I saw Teddy. And Teddy was my best friend because he was a great listener. Yeah, so this is why with true play we have to be so gentle and sensitive, because it isn't just full of light, love, and laughter, as I discovered, right? And to be sensitive to what play is. So when we enforce it at work and go, thou shalt do an icebreaker, it's not just an issue with those who are neurodiverse, it's also like a human rights thing. Ask for permission, give them the option not to do it, and just to be really aware how it is for each person, and we all play differently. So it is okay for us to play. And now that we're adults, we can sign our own permission slip. So why play? Well, it shapes an organism's brain. It makes us smarter and more adaptable. It enables us to sustain social relationships, right? So the most sociable folks, very often, it's not a matter of introverted or extroverted. They're just able to build social relationships and maintain them as and when they are able to. And of course, it fuels creativity and innovation. And why should adults play? For exactly the same reasons that children do. Breaks down barriers, opens the mind to enable learning, creates connection, source of joy and hope. So joy, I am in the business of joy and hope. I am in the business of bringing joy and hope back to organizations. Now, some of my teams might not agree with that. But information sharing is an act of collaboration. And without that, how can we fly our planes or sail our ships? So, playful leadership, to summarize then, And to reiterate is leadership that facilitates the flow of value through the vision, skills, and control, and the leader's ability to play. And of course, your ability to play. Okay, so what's a system anyway? So we've talked a little bit about play, and I want to sort of move into leadership space, and we've got a short exercise coming up in a moment. So what's a system anyway? Well, it's a set of interrelated components which are connected together to work as a unified whole. That, by the way, is the definition that I learned about systems from geography as I revised it with my daughter last week, and I thought, wow, how wonderful that they're teaching children about systems. That makes perfect sense. But of course, it depends if really that system is working as a unified whole or not. And a system is not the sum of the parts, but a product of their interactions by one of the granddaddies of systems thinking, right, Russell Ackoff. And this is the entanglements and the invisible force fields that we might find ourselves in when we're working day to day. When things, you make a suggestion, you think, that's obviously a really good idea, right? You get excited when you're cycling to work all about it. And then everyone else just looks at you and go, what are you, a dum-dum? No way are we going to do that, you know? And so just being aware of how systems work, yeah, it's not just a lifesaver, it's I'd say a soul saver. So I wanted to share with you what these invisible forces really mean, right? So systems that are healthy and well flow, but inevitably they will become blocked, and there are some invisible forces that prevent them from thriving. So what are those forces, you might want to ask me? So let's do a check, okay? Okay, we're going to play safe. I hope you can catch. I'll just do my best to flow. Okay, what is that force? What is that force? That invisible force. Oops. I hope everything's okay. What is that force? Yeah, invisible. Let's do another one. This one's slightly harder, so I'm not going to throw it here as far. Okay. You got it? Excellent. Play with it. What is the force? What is the force? Oops. What is the... Oh. Ooh, we got one half. Where's the other half? Here we go. It's yours, lovely. Oh. Did I get it into the... Ah, yes, magnetism. Absolutely. Oh, thank you, beloved cameraman. Okay, so the other one is magnetism. Okay, invisible forces. We're surrounded by them all the time. And I'd like for you to perhaps experience another one now. So turn to your neighbor and just take a moment, about 5 minutes or so, and take turns, just maybe if it feels safe to do so and you're happy to share an early childhood play memory of you having fun. What we'll do is let's just one person start to share, and then I'll ding, and then we'll switch so that you get equal time. Is that okay? Alrighty, have fun. Your earliest play memory. What's your earliest play memory?
You ask a question, you have no idea what's going to happen in the other person's head. You have no idea what's going to happen in your own head when somebody asks you a question.
Yeah.
My earliest play memory is Carol Ann in Chicago. I used to play Barbie with her because if I didn't, she would beat me up.
Okay. All right. Oh. And how was it for you? Just a few words, sharing your earliest memory of play with a new friend or an old friend. How do you feel now compared to before? Touching. Absolutely. Yeah. Nostalgic. Absolutely. Anything else? Happy, yeah. Well, here's the funny thing, right? When we look at our human brain in this very simple model, if this is the amygdala and this is the so-called prefrontal cortex that we've managed to evolve, which, if you ask me, based on the state of the nation and the world, we probably don't use as much of the prefrontal cortex as much as the amygdala most of the time. But our brains don't realize a memory is only a memory and that it exists in the past. When we replay it, it's a live stream of a movie. So we get to relive all of that. And that's why, again, a play memory can be so tender if maybe sometimes it's fraught with challenges. And the first time I was asked this question, I was really proud of myself. I'd drawn a picture, I managed to do it. And I told, I was on something called play work training, because in England we train play workers, adults who work with children and in schools to create play spaces so children can reach their full potential for all the benefits you've seen. And I described how I played in the stream with a friend. And then the teacher said to me, "Oh, how old were you in that memory?" I said, "Oh, I was 12. I'd just come from Hong Kong to England. I had this newfound freedom. I was 12. And then she said, and you know the way you know, if you remember when you were little and you were more aware of the world around you, sometimes the adult's mask would just slip for a bit. And you'd notice something that it might be like snakes behind the mask or all sorts of other things or things I can't tell you. And then very quickly, in like a nanosecond, that mask would shift back into place and everything's good. It's all good. She said to me, she said, "Well, thank you, Portia. Well, most adults tend to have a play memory, between the ages of maybe 5 or 7. And I thought, whoa, what is that about? So that was really a catalyst for me to embark on this play journey of my own, because of course, by then I had my own baby girl and I knew that play was something, and play deficiency would be a terrible thing to inflict on a future generation. So this has been a truly lifelong journey for me. So what was that hidden force that we just experienced as we shared with an old friend or a new friend who's now an old friend? What was that invisible force? Do we know? Yes, very good. Magnetism girl with the donut. Excellent. Connection. Yeah, thanks to the donut. Absolutely tuned it in. So connection. And then what's a stone's throw away from that? Well, from connection, the board agrees. The connection, a step from that is friendship, right? And that's how it happens, these invisible forces that are at work. So as I started to share with you my personal play journey, it wasn't all fun and games, because if it were, I wouldn't have needed playful leadership. And I found myself working in various industries, ranging from, the finance industry to many others, many others, and biscuit manufacturing, would you believe, and the airline and the government and all sorts of things. And I started seeing things I was uncomfortable with, more on the Darth Vader side of things and the Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I thought, well, I could either sit here and not do anything and just charge a day rate and carry on going to work. But I was like, my conscience is not going to let me do this, because I just could not look myself in the face in the mirror every day. And I had to create and write down what I was seeing. And people would say to me when I introduced myself as an agile coach or, here to offer support to help teams work better, "Oh, Portia, people don't want to change. People can't change. And you know what? Other people need to change, not me. Nothing to see here." And then what would be the result of that? Well, that'd be coercion. They'd have to force people to do the software development lifecycle. Once I was complimented by my manager after I did a call with a colleague explaining to them this software development lifecycle. I tried to make it as collaborative as possible and optional and enabling independent thinking. After the call, the manager called me right away, and I thought, oh, now I'm really in trouble. I pick up the phone, and he says, "Portia, that was the best, well-facilitated conference call I've ever been on." I was like, okay. He said, I love the way you coerce them, the way you force them into the SDLC. So you know what I did next? Well, I went to one of my favorite websites which represent freedom, iresign.com. And I sort of took a few minutes to see which template I wanted to use. And then a few days later, after I had my ducks lined up, I sent the letter. Because there was no point of me staying in an organization where they valued coercion and recognized collaboration as coercion. I mean, that's just messed up, and it wouldn't be healthy for me. And of course, with coercion, yeah. Acts of courage and madness, they're not really that far apart. So from coercion, you get resistance. We've seen this. It's not just in the Star Wars movie, right? And then what happens next? Oh dear, pain and suffering. And then now we have, and this is so sick and twisted in systems thinking, but we call it a positive feedback loop, right? Because the feedback just keeps coming. But it's obviously a vicious cycle, right? So pain and suffering, then there'll be more coercion, then more resistance. And why the heck do we not need more energy, an outside force to come and help us, right? Any guesses of what I call this model, if you haven't seen it before? Well, I had only one name for it. Model Z, Z for zombie, right? So I had to really dig deep and think, okay, what am I going to do next? Because even if I change jobs, change companies, it's all going to be the same zombie feces. We're going to be in trouble here. This is not good. Waste of time, waste of soul. So I dug deep. And this is why it's such a joy for me to be here and to spend more time in Poland. And I had no idea that this would lead me to that journey. And I read Man's Search for Meaning as part of my coaching training, because I really needed some meaning at this point. And Viktor Frankl, one of the survivors of the Holocaust, a doctor, and did you know Viktor had helicopter lessons, I believe, when he was in his 80s, because he survived based on the memory and the longing to see his wife's face again. He survived, and he cared for everyone in the camp as a doctor. And I remember, I think there's a YouTube video of him talking about learning how to fly a helicopter in his 80s. And, you know, here's a man who survived and thrived in spite of the difficulties. And he made this observation. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose. And in its space is our growth, right, and freedom. So that space, by the way, because the scientists have measured it, is 100th of a millisecond, 100th of a millisecond. So when I saw that quote, I thought, that's great. I'm going to optimize that space for me. Because when I haven't been able to make good use of that space, that's when I've got into trouble. And that's where mindfulness comes in, meditation comes in. And you don't enlarge the space, but you make better use of that space, you know? And all of a sudden, your inner critic, you give them the metaphorical snacks so they go to sleep sometimes. You do play with them. You exercise them plenty. And then all of a sudden, you're able to really receive and hold people in the way they need to be, in a respectful way, right? Fully boundaried. And now I can say that my 100th of a millisecond feels really spacious. I mean, there's some days I'm like kind of like in the prairie, kind of just skipping along and go, I've met this person before, but now I see them so much more clearly because that space has been optimized. So remember the qualities of a playful leader, the 5 R's: resourceful, responsible, respectful, resilient, and real. And what people really, really want when I listen to them, of course, is clarity, alignment, and flow. Just tell me what it is you need and why you need it. We'll organize ourselves, and then we're going to make it work on the condition that we share with you where we are in our progress, and you help unblock us when we cannot unblock ourselves. It's really a fair balance of exchange when you think about it. But what people really, really want most is control. We want a sense of agency. We want a sense of hope. We want to know that there's an X-wing ready for us to jump into if we need to save the universe or to get something unblocked for a team member. We want to have the confidence that we can navigate and even thrive in complexity and adversity. And the old way of doing things, just pencil and paper, talk things through, and even just old school collaboration isn't enough in complex systems, right? But most important of all, and this is where if your heart is tingling at this point, we have evolved a capacity and capability to know where healthy lives in our body, and we are constantly seeking it. And if we don't get it, we will continually seeking it, and we'll numb ourselves, we'll dissociate, we'll do whatever is needed, charge a higher rate, I don't know. Do whatever's needed. But until you get that healthy space, your body will not stop seeking. So that care should be used as a gift and with respect. So I created a new model. I said, well, what if we said people want to change? Because this is what I would see whilst there was coercion going. I'm like, well, hang on a minute. If we took away the coercion and we acknowledge that actually people want to change. People want to change all the time. They change their minds about where they want to go on holiday. Yesterday it was Barbados, but today they're going to stay at home because they've just had a Zen moment and they discovered, actually, I'm going to put some of that money into my savings so that when I'm 70 years old, I'm going to buy myself that knitting pattern. Brilliant. That's a 20-year planning. People can change. Absolutely. You're a different person yesterday than you are today. Whether or not you like it, your body's been working and we're delighted to have woken up this morning and we're here. And of course, change begins with ourselves. So I have 4 criteria when I, not interview, but select clients I work with to make sure it works. So the first one is that the person who hires me believes in human potential. The second one is that they give and invest time for people to learn. The third one is they let people make mistakes and don't make a big deal out of it. And the fourth one, which really should be the first one, but it's very difficult, and I only recently managed this. The fourth one is that whoever hires me is willing to change and learn themselves. And then when you have all those pieces in place, then it works. Now, you might say, well, Portia, aren't you just being a wuss? That makes it so easy. It's the optimal setting. That's not fair on everybody else. But I'm like, well, hang on a minute. You know, we can't practice our skills until we have those things. Anything else is really quite a waste. And how else can we tap into it? But we can use those criteria at a micro level, right? Starting with ourselves. And that's still a winning game. Okay, so when we think that and believe that people can change and will, well, we presuppose success. Well, what will this transformation look like when it's successful? And I will give my clients estimates based on my gut feel and using the intuitive approach that I'll share later on in the workshop, how we do this, right? And I'll give them an estimate. Oh, it'll be between, I don't know, Halloween and Christmas. That's how long I think. And we'll constantly track it. We'll look at the behaviors of the system and what's changing. And we build relationships with people. We trust each other. But of course, it's earned trust as well, because it's safe play. And then we develop increased self-awareness. So I work with individuals who might sometimes just drift off the radar for a little while. And then when they come back, they'll say, you know what, Portia? I've changed my mind. I've decided to be on board with this transformation. You might not have noticed that I was a bit resistant, 2 months ago, but I'm on board now. And I'd be so grateful. I'm like, fantastic. There's always room for you. We needed you here. We've been waiting. Here's your seat. Let's start steering. And identifying limiting beliefs, things that we believe are holding us back, or things we believe to be true, which are no longer useful. That allows us to change them and become more of ourselves. Now, the thing is, that's why you have to play through it. That's the key thing I've learned. The more difficult something is, the more you have to play with it so that you get through it, and then it becomes this virtuous, positive feedback loop. And then you can keep going, and you can reach for the stars. And of course, what is this hidden force? Well, it's the model L for love and life. And that's what fuels the system. When a CEO tells me, when they meet me, and I introduce the playful leadership as my approach, and they jump out of their seat and go, I love to play. I'm like, brilliant, because I'm going to take you on your word, right? Because you're an adult, I'm an adult. Let's see how far we get with this. And I've already explained what true play is, respect for people. So people who play together also stay together. That's what Dr. Stuart Brown said. And we saw that at the end of the Star Wars movie. Even if there wasn't much play left for Darth and Skywalker. So to lead a playful life, I encourage you to tap into this greatest superpower, which is multifaceted. There is no stereotype, by the way, remember, of how you like to play. So just go out there and enjoy yourself and share your hobbies. Tell people what you enjoy, and it's fine if they don't. But they'll be so much more delighted to have learned that you're passionate about, stamp collecting since you were 8. Exercise your play intelligence. Come back to do the Play Genius quiz on a regular basis. So a lot of my friends and clients, they'll email me or text me every so often and go, oh, I've just redone my Play Genius, and it's gone up by this point, and it's this area. And they just start, they self-assess and self-regulate, which is a really beautiful thing, right? And go, these are the things that have changed in my life. Chung, 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 chung. right? Of 5 hours. This is what playful leaders do. You can even encourage your team to do it. So I'm creating a version of it where you can do it for yourself and for the team and for your organization that you belong in, right? And then you can see the discrepancies and see where you wish for alignment. It's about acknowledging things as well as where they are. So believe it or not, if you're after a change, what you need now most is to just acknowledge where things are. And once you do that, as if by magic, help will come. You will find a different way of thinking about it. Something will happen and it will unblock. But this is a tried and tested approach to most of the sort of change, the psychology of change and everything else. So just by acknowledging things as they are. And of course, play at home and at work. So if you have a playful home life, personal life, then play more there, use that as the practice place and then bring it into work. But did you know we spend more than 80% now, it went up from 70, 80% of our waking hours doing some form of work or work-related activity. So that's more time than we will ever spend with our loved ones in a lifetime, right? So if that doesn't scare you, I know it did me, right? So practice and play and just enjoy yourself. So lastly, I leave you with the power of play. Play is to be connected with our life force at its fullest. So let's do a quick user story test, if that's okay with everyone. If you agree, raise your hand. You can explain the importance of true play, and I'll share my slides as well, of course. So if you agree, raise your hand. You can explain the importance of true play. Okay, yeah, and it's okay if you can't. Let me know the feedback and we'll improve. Thank you. You have one or more ideas to become more playful? Yeah, okay. And you've had fun? Alrighty. Okay. So here's your chance to experience what I call play alchemy in the workshop about emotional circuits, where we'll map them. It's a way of visualizing what is invisible, because actually it's more tangible than you think. You can hear my talk here on Agile 2019 as my keynote talk, first opening talk on Playful Leadership. I run a leadership program at Hogwarts in England, and I just like to leave you with this thought, and that is, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. So delighted and an honor to have played with you today. Wishing you a fantastic 2 days. Thank you very much.